deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? What's good? What's good? What's good? So I've been meditating. I've been meditating a little while, about what I would speak about next. And I feel this is a good time to revisit one of the concepts that I laid down earlier this year. I'm not sure if I did a full video about it, but I would do it now if I haven't already. The title of this video is called Hyperdimensional Evolution. And I want to tie all of this together with the spirits or the intelligence of the cities that we occupy. If you are not familiar with this concept, every city has an intelligence behind the city. Or we can say it in a different way. Every city has a spirit. In order to identify the spirit or the intelligence or the energy of a city, not only do you have to understand the history of the city and to study the pioneers of the city, because they are the ones who laid down the blueprint, and all of the people who come after only multiply and add to that blueprint. Once you understand the blueprint, then you understand everything that is built upon the blueprint. However, if you are not knowledgeable of the blueprint, then it's going to be a little harder to navigate successfully within your city walls. Let me take it a step further. Because intelligence of the city is not necessarily going to be outright named. You may not be able to do your research and say, okay, the pioneers of the city agree that this is going to be the city of Osiris or Set or whatever. It may not be that clearly defined. So you may not necessarily find the actual name of the deity. You may have to compile certain information from here and there, from this and that. You may have to compile, because it may have been more than one pioneer. It may have been 7 pioneers of a particular city that came together, and they all brought their own particular influence. They all brought essentially their piece of their culture. So when you understand the pieces and the elements that had to combine in order for a city to be formed and still survive to this day, we understand that not only was many of the pioneers of these cities masons, meaning that they had the proper knowledge of symbolism and how to embed it or enchant the stones that they built their blueprint upon. The energy is channeled through the symbolism. If you look at any city, what is it filled with? Symbolism. Football teams, basketball teams, soccer teams, sports teams. Symbolism is in every city. And majority of us don't truly understand the symbolism and how we interact with that particular symbolism. Right? But this is what I'm laying down here. Once you do your research, thorough research about the city that you occupy, that you love, so this shouldn't necessarily be work for you. A city that you was born in, or a city that you lived in, a city that you just absolutely love being in every day. Why not study the blueprint so that you can properly place yourself in a better position to navigate and to connect? Because the city and the people within the city are just avatars of that source intelligence that has been channeled through the symbolism placed upon the stones and all the natural elements that make up a city. So once you have compiled your information and you have made your hypothesis, you have come to some type of theory. Okay, it could be this, it could be that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It gives you a better understanding of the land that you walk on, because every land is ruled by particular spirits. That's why if you have a tradition, let's just say you're in China and you come to America with your traditions will have to be altered because the spirits of the land are different. So the spirits, you can say, that compile a spiritual system all the way across the waters, and the people come across the waters. Now you are interacting with a different type of spirit. And now that spirit seeks expression. You're like, okay, I understand the tradition you brought over. But now you have to comply with the spirits that occupy the land. So there has to be some type of agreement made. Like, okay, you can keep remnants of your system, but it must be updated to suit the spirits that actually occupy that land so that they can be, you can say, properly cared for in that sense. So the same way of people will worship their deities, the spirits of the land desire that energy as well, because you are occupying the land. Remember, the ancestors are in the ground. The bones, the carbon, everything is in the earth. Again, humans have been around billions of years. Who knows? So the world is a graveyard, right? So there are spirits in every land just due to the people that originally occupied the land. And that spirit is still activated and active. And this is for any part of the planet. So you bring your tradition over, and it must blend with the spirits that occupy that land. And now you have something that works for you. Because now you give honor to the spirits of the land, and you also remain honorable to your tradition. And this is why we have so many traditions of the earth, because as you travel the land masses, you are working with different spirits. So even if you have a core spiritual system, you still give honors to those whose land that you occupy. It's just a symbol of respect. The same way you respect your elders, you respect the ones who have laid the blueprint for the land that you walk on, the land that has made you successful, the land that has been communicating with you on a spiritual level, on a hyperdimensional level. It's the spirits of the land that cultivates you subtly, whether we realize these things or not. There's always a level of communication going on. It may just come to us in the form of our own thoughts or the form of our own visions. But the deeper we go into the quantum, we understand quantum entanglement. We are entangled with the spirits of the land. If this is the land that you claim, the land that you live on, the land that you occupy, the land that you making money, you are raising your family here, the land that you are occupying. The spirits are the ones who hold the secrets because they have been around since the blueprints. So they are the ones who hold the secrets of how to successfully navigate these lands. Regardless of whatever buildings are on top of the lands or whatever type of business is on top of the land, when you connect with the actual land itself, the earth itself, as everyone say, connect with nature, right? But many people say it in the sense of get out of the city, go into the forest or go up in the mountains or go up to the woods, because the energy is more, you can say, is more charged with negative ions. So the energy is more pure, which I won't argue with. However, it's still the same land, whether it's a city on top of it or a forest or a mountain, waterfall, it's the same land occupied by the same types of people. So it is the people whose spirits are still bound to the earth that hold the secrets. The secrets didn't just disappear. They just became more subtle. It's something that you have to tune into. And this is the purpose of spirituality. We live a spiritual lifestyle to stay in tune with the spirits of any given city so that they can communicate and work with you in order for you to advance and become a power source in and of yourself. Remember, like, there may be wars going on between spiritual families. There may be certain groups of people that may not like each other. There may be ancestral wars that goes back thousands of years. But because we're not necessarily attached to any of it, what do I mean? By us being in this continent, on this continent, in America, we are alchemists. Not to say that anyone else isn't. But most people are still kind of connected with their culture. It's only here where America is a combination of the whole world. America doesn't necessarily have its own culture. It is a combination of all cultures, just like the English language is a combination of every language before it. So America is an alchemical pot, or as they say, a melting pot, that the whole world gathers together and offer their spirituality, their traditions, in order to benefit the collective whole. Nonetheless, we still have the ancestor that has occupied this land before us, whose remains are still buried deep within the earth. Remember, just imagine how many people died in any given city in the course of human history. So every city, if you think about it, like, just imagine how many people die every day in a particular city, every year. And all these people are buried in the ground. So over the course of millions of years, you literally is people all over this. Right? Before the building you lived in, there was probably no building there. Probably was a graveyard. Before these buildings, there's probably graveyards, because it's just always been people dying. That's just a part of life. The intelligence is preserved in the bones. The same way the pharaohs are mummified in the Egyptian tombs or the Kemetic tombs. It's the same concept. The mummified pharaoh is able to communicate with the people of the lands, even though they are physically departed. Their spirit is still able to communicate with the earth. So you can say they still have a connection to the earth through the carbon preservated in their bodies. So their spirit still has a vessel to communicate with, not necessarily to animate into, now you have walking mummies. It's not necessarily like that. It's just the spirit can communicate through the pharaoh. Remember, the pharaoh is buried with all these things around him, and it's very elaborate. It was designed that way to communicate with the people that are still there. The pharaoh, you can say that's the pharaoh's heaven. But the pharaoh can still come down or come up to the earth from beneath, or come down from above, and still communicate with those who are in tune with that frequency. So this is ancient science. This has been going on. It's just that over time, this has become forbidden. It's forbidden for you to even think in these terms. Nonetheless, once we explore deeper and deeper the sciences of the earth magic, so we understand the stars. Maybe we don't fully understand the stars, so let me not say that. We have a lot of ascension and evolution talk, but again, it's not really too much talk about connecting with the dead in the earth already. People are trying to communicate, like, let me communicate with my grandmother, my grandfather, and they're doing it through the astral plane or the dream world. Nothing wrong with that. But you really don't have too many people that, like, okay, I can actually do this, physically as well. I can actually, as they used to do, again, this is the arts of necromancy. I'm not going to go too deep into it. Nonetheless, they will collect certain items together in order to reanimate bodies. So let's just say you wanted to speak to your grandmother, you would gather certain resources so that your grandmother's spirit can animate that corpse that you have compiled for yourself in order to do that directly. to your grandmother's spirit, which is, you can say, still connected through the earth, through the bones, through the skull, just being a part of the earth anyway, it's still in existence. So in today's times, again, most things are meant to. We're thinking about, let's do everything mentally on the astral plane and mental plane. Nothing wrong with that. But we can still do these things physically as well. Again, this is why these arts are forbidden. The 7 forbidden arts are all arts relating to earth, magic, pyromancy. All things that actually deal with the elements are considered forbidden. You can do all this astral traveling on. You can do all that. You can do all the ascension you want, all the space traveling you want. But if you start doing some earth magic, people have a problem with that. You can meditate all you want. You start doing some necromancy, now some things are, everybody is not going to agree with that. That's why it's not an issue for so many of us to speak about, the spirituality. Because they don't mind. Because that takes you nowhere, essentially, without the assistance of the earth. So it's a deeper connection when you communicate with your ancestors on the astral plane in the dream world, when you have animated their spirits physically. It's a whole different story then. Whole different story then. And of course, who was practicing these arts? Of course, the witches. You had the witch trials. They were very gruesome to any practitioner of magic. And when I say they, I mean the religious history, the history of religion. Study the history of religion. It's been a very gruesome, deadly, bloody history. All to promote a certain type of ideology. But you're going completely backwards when you have to kill in order to promote an ideology. So religion was already, doomed, I would say. It's not disrespecting any religious-minded people. But if you do the history of the religion you practice, it's not a good history. It's war and bloodshed. To the point where even now, it still keeps people in bondage because it was never designed as a tool of evolution. Remember, religion, it means bound, to bind, to hold. Now, for some people, they may interpret that as to discipline a person, to keep them steady, to keep them steadfast, to keep them humbled. But in the midst of doing that, you also limit them. And yes, some people do need to be limited because some people take things literally. And that's what causes the chaos, the literal translation of things. Because all things are metaphysical. All things have at least 7 different layers. You can say the Bible, the Quran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Gnostic Bible, Sufism. All these things communicate with all 7 layers of the chakras. In other words, when you are reading these books of magic, you can read it from your crown chakra, from your third eye, throat chakra on down. They are multi-dimensional or hyperdimensional. Hyperdimensional just means beyond the 3rd dimension. These books of magic are beyond the 3rd dimension. But because religion takes these things literal, we see why this causes bloodshed and miscommunication and all things that are purely unnecessary. When all we have to do is respect each other's way of life. But instead we kill. We create holy wars. All in the name of what? The energy of death. Scorpio, the metamorphosis, the transmutation of consciousness. So I say this to say, millions upon millions upon millions of people have died in holy wars. The world is a graveyard. So, the world being a graveyard, meaning that necromancy is the true science. Because it is the dead. There are more dead than alive. Always. How many people in the world? Billions. But how many people are dead? We probably couldn't even calculate that number. And the dead are still here through the spirits left in the remains of the earth. So you see, this is a complete science. And we're only given half of it because it doesn't ruffle feathers to talk about ascension all day. It doesn't ruffle feathers to meditate. You know? It doesn't cause a threat. It doesn't make people feel uncomfortable because you're going to go in the mountains and meditate. It doesn't threaten anybody for you to do any of these things. So we can speak about these things all day. But the moment you start speaking about the forbidden and the dark, and motherfuckers think you own that shit, then you start being called a devil worshiper because you are embracing the arts of the earth. The arts of the earth are helping you to connect with the spirit. These are what tarot readers are. Those who are seers, they are able to see hyperdimensionally and evolve. And that's what gives them the ability of prophecy to speak the future into existence symbolically. All leaders were symbolic speakers. Any leader was always speaking symbolically. Never take anything literally on face value. Especially if you consider a person who has a great mind. If you consider a person having a great mind, they are able to speak multi-dimensionally or hyperdimensionally and cause you to evolve on many levels, not just a base level, but on many levels. So in today's times, as we see, none of us probably know any practitioners of necromancy. But we probably could call somebody on our phone right now who's spiritually minded. And we see where the problem lies there. So I'm here to bring to the awareness that spirituality is necessary. But without the roots of the earth, without you understanding the elemental divinations of the earth and be able to practice divination utilizing the elements of the earth, then everything else you're doing cannot be grounded and leveled properly. There is not a proper balance until you start working with those dark forbidden arts. And they're forbidden because they work. You don't ban something that is superstition. You ban things that work. They were not cutting heads off of witches because they thought these witches were playing or these warlocks was playing. And again, a witch can be a man or a female, a man or a woman. So they wasn't playing. Again, people were going to jail if people thought you were practicing witchcraft at a certain time. So this was taken very seriously until modern science came along. Like, all right, let's get out of that superstition. Doesn't make it not real. They just decided to move away from it. Like, okay, let's put the science into the people. Let's get away from all this occult information. Let's just, make all these technical terms and make people more logical and scientific. So we ain't got to worry about witches springing up anymore because those arts were being taught in the streets at that particular time. And we're talking about the Middle Ages, 1500s to be exact, between those times in Europe. So therefore, anyone who practiced the old religion, this is the old religion. I speak about the old religion or the Set's religion, Satan's religion. It is just the religion of having mastery of the earth and being able to animate the elements of the earth with your spiritual power, with your kundalini. Right? So these arts were passed down. If you were the son or daughter of a witch, everyone else deemed you to be cursed. Like, you to be born a witch or to be born, I'm not just going to say spiritually minded, but spiritually gifted. You actually have gifts. Before you even understand how the mind works and what the mind is, you had gifts. So that the blood that flows within you blessed you with certain gifts, right? So if you were born into this madness, you were deemed cursed, not because they were wrong, but because if you don't tame this ability, it will destroy you. And many of us have been destroyed, not having the ability to tame our abilities. Why? Because we're too far and not grounded enough. That's why I say, how many people know necromancers? But we probably got plenty of people who can spiritually, intellectually stimulate us. But who's really putting in that real earth magic, that real root work? Very, very few of us know these type of people, although they still exist. But we just, they move in secret, they move in silence. They're not letting everybody know who and what they are because they know what comes with that. Again, in today's times, because, everybody wants to be famous, everybody's trying to get on, everybody just putting out to the world what they do. I do this is what I'm about, this, that, this, that, this, that. But if you are really practicing the forbidden arts, you are not speaking about it. You don't speak about it like, well, I'm not going to let people know that I'm reanimating the dead. Because people are not going to take that gracefully. Remember this, go back to the 19th century. Study ectoplasma. People probably don't even know what that is. Ectoplasma. People were able to produce a ghost-like substance from within their mouth. It was even women who was able to produce this out of their, what's the technical term? Vesica Pisces, right? This ghost-like substance, and the ghost could animate its body through this ghost substance. Just do the research. It's all there. And of course, over time, they're like, okay, these people were frauds. But that was just a later day version of necromancy, which is clearly real. Clearly. This is why it was forbidden. You don't forbid something that is not real, that's strictly based in superstition. You don't send people to jail if it's not real. You don't kill people if it's not real. And all of these things have happened for those who have practiced these forbidden arts. Right? So therefore, we understand this is why I speak so much about connecting with the earth, but not in the way that is being taught in today's times, where you just need to go exercise and you need to plant your feet on the earth. I'm talking about gathering the resources and actually animating bodies. And that's how you get your information, because you are animating bodies, not because you went to the fifth dimension. And again, not to invalidate that experience, but to ground that experience. Right? The same motherfucker I connected with up there, I can connect with down here, because they are the same. Are we not the same? Are we not the ancestors? It's all the same. The motherfuckers in the fifth dimension are probably buried in the earth. They are buried in the earth. If you had a physical body, that shit is buried in the earth. Unless it was cremated, and even if it was cremated, your ashes are spread amongst the earth. It still goes back to the earth. So that way, and because of that reason, the same motherfucker you're trying to connect with up there, you can connect with down here. But again, nah, you ain't supposed to be doing that, because that's a little bit extreme. Which it is. But this is the reality of it. Because yes, people have lost their lives practicing these things. Something that was gifted to them. Not because they're just bad and wicked and they want to go against the government and they want to be outlaws. They were forced to live those lifestyles. Because again, everybody knew the mark of a witch. Remember, people took these things seriously at those times. So motherfuckers knew who the witches were, because they can tell. Like, they were literally people devoted to studying the marks of witches, and because again, they're like, yo, these are our enemies, right? These are our enemies. So they studied and they prosecuted these people. Now, the same way that's going on with the people of the earth now being suppressed by another group of people. People just have this consciousness, and it don't have nothing to do with the color. You have people with the same skin tone oppressing and suppressing each other. So it goes beyond race. It's a mentality. And this comes from not having knowledge of the earth. We have to deceive and manipulate when we don't understand the earth. If you understand the earth, you know that the earth produces everything in abundance. So it's easy for you to go get your own when you understand the way the earth works. But if you don't understand the way the earth works, then everybody is at each other like dogs, right? Everybody's at each other like dogs, fighting for jobs and fighting for money and fighting for positions. This whole society was built off of competition. Steel sharpens steel, the energy of Mars, the solar plexus. But we see that's still operating in the third dimension. The root chakra, sacral chakra, the solar plexus, that's the third dimension. So you don't hit the fourth dimension till you get out of the third dimension into your heart chakra, the crossroads. And then you start accessing those higher frequencies. But everything is built off of, as we know, Mars energy. Not Venus energy, but Mars energy. And we see the Venus energy is starting to come up more and more as people become more spiritual. They're getting more into their heart center. But you're not supposed to stay there. And this is where people get trapped. People stay in the heart as if you don't have more work to do. You got more work to do. The heart purifies us of the lower karma. We are purified in the heart area to purify ourselves from the lower karma. All the things you think you did wrong and all the things that you feel bad or guilty about and all this, you know, just having to be on this earth and you had to do bad things. We all have a dark history. Regardless of how good you think you are, you probably did some mad, devilish things at some point. But that's just a part of life. We are animalistic as well. So you had to embrace the darkness as well as the light. You came to your senses like, all right, I shouldn't be doing that. That's causing too much madness. Let me do this in a more efficient way. So therefore, do witches still exist? Absolutely. They're just more sophisticated now. You're like, all right, we're not about to let motherfuckers know who we are because motherfuckers is after our heads. So we have to be sophisticated. We have to move in silence and practice in secret. This is why they, again, accuse the Freemasons of worshiping the Baphomet and practicing Sufism. Oh, you definitely, it was interaction with Christians and Muslims at those times, the 1300s, early 1300s. Don't think that they didn't share information and knowledge. Why? Because this is what we do. We come together and share knowledge. You can go to Iraq right now, and you representing hip hop or you representing whatever you represent, you will be able to go amongst those people and share information. You think they're going to try to hide their culture from you? Everybody's this. They are glad to educate you about their culture and their way of life, as you should be glad to express your dealings if you're into that kind of thing. So there's no secrets. So if you go anywhere, you will be gamed up because the people will teach you their culture if you are humble enough to accept it. Because who's going to refuse someone who is willing to learn and willing to go through the hardship to study and to become an apprentice and add depth? Who's going to say no? The true master never says no, never refuses a true student, and you see the dedication. Like, all right, I see the flame in your eyes. Let's cultivate the flame. I'm not going to say, nah, you're white, you're black, you're this, you're that. I ain't fucking with you. It's only modern day people who think in these terms. Simplistic, classisms. But the true masters have evolved, so they're not looking at a person's status or their wealth or lack of. It's just strictly on your spiritual principles, your dedication. How curious are you about the mysteries of life? The mysteries of the stars and the mysteries of the earth. To access the forbidden and the mundane and work this energy like an alchemist, like a scientist. Who's going to refuse the true pupil? The issue is there are not truly too many of us who are willing to submit to that type of study, because we live in times where the ego is inflated. So everybody's trying to get everything instantly. Again, they're trying to brand themselves, market themselves, advertise. You know, we're strictly in a competitive society. Social media, it's all about who's going to get the money, who's going to get the money. Everybody's in competition. So nobody's going to submit. Nobody's going to get on their fucking knees and submit to the study. So everybody want to be, you know, somebody, as you say. Everybody wants to be somebody. Very few people who still would allow themselves and humble themselves and submit to the intelligence that is greater than them, at least consciously, because again, we are all interconnected. So it's not too much humbleness going on in today's times, but those who are more spiritually inclined. And this is the reality. Nonetheless, the mysteries of the earth are always forbidden because it represents power. You have power when you know how the world works. Not the world, but the earth. See, everybody's trying to understand the world and the people. It's not too many people trying to understand the earth itself. People want like, I want to know how people's minds work. Versus I want to know how the earth and the elements of the earth work and how I can activate my chemistry, my knowledge of science, chemistry, biology, physics, so on and so forth, metaphysics, quantum physics, sciences, and to be able to observe the natural phenomenon in nature, because nature is what we studied to even get to the point we are today. The pioneers of science, mathematics, technology, engineering studied nature. Isaac Newton, Einstein were students of what? Eastern philosophy. The founders of this modern day science that everybody worships, the founders were more open to the occult than we are now. Isaac Newton, Einstein, they were open to the occult. And you can see it all in their teachings and their ideologies. But in today's times, you ask the average scientist about the occult, they reject it, even though their founding fathers did not. So that lets you know right there, it's not about we're upholding what the pioneers upheld. We're doing our own thing because we feel we know better. Okay, they laid the foundation, but we know better now. We're more advanced, which is not particularly the case. Because once you throw the occult out of the scenario, out of the situation, out of the ingredients, you're only reduced to, as we see now, everybody just waiting for the next iPhone. Everybody's waiting for the new MacBook. Everybody's waiting for the next hot thing. It's not too many people that's actively exploring the mysteries of the earth. They want what comes from the earth. They want the technology. They want the phones. They want, to have the latest and the greatest. Nothing wrong with that. But it's easier to do these things when you have mastery, not over people, but mastery over the earth. Two different things. You study the world, but you also study the earth. It's two separate sciences, completely. Because when you study the earth, you are studying the plants, and you're studying the animals. You also study the spirit. All things that nature comprises of, the seen as well as the unseen. When you study people, you're not necessarily thinking that in depth. People are just studying people to be able to, become better salesmen or something like that. It's not necessarily a genuine study of people. Because if it was a genuine study of people, we would have so much conflict if people were genuinely studying each other for each other's benefit. I want to study you and I want you to study me so that we can come together and bounce ideas. It's not necessarily being studied in that way. Everybody's trying to, quote unquote, trump everyone else. I'm right, you're wrong. And this is why. Here's the factual information, here's the research, here's this. But the information was made to confuse us. And this is why we are confused, because the confusion was purposely injected into the culture. Again, this is America. So this isn't me complaining. This is me expanding and allowing all of us to expand and say, don't just connect with nature, study nature and study the earth and allow the earth to reveal its mysteries to you so that you can become a practitioner of the forbidden, not because it's wrong, but because it's necessary for you to obtain power. How can you obtain power without knowledge of the earth? The earth will supply you in abundance the thing that you give to other people. If you sell bananas, where are you getting the bananas from? Where are you getting the rice from? Where are you getting the resource? Everyone is getting their resources from the earth. So the earth is what supplies the resources. The earth is what allows you to become wealthy. The earth is what allows you to become successful. The earth is what allows you to connect with the people. If it was no earth, there would be no people. This is why, there's been a heightened consciousness of take care of the earth, take care of the earth, take care of the earth. Because we understand, this earth, even though the intelligence of the earth is way beyond humans, we feel like we can destroy the earth, but we couldn't. All these nuclear weapons, all this technology that we have, motherfuckers are just egotistical. We could destroy the whole earth. It's not gonna happen. They just want to give you the illusion. They don't have anything that can destroy this planet. Trust me. It's just not gonna happen. It would have happened already. Trust me. It would have happened. But of course, if we are confused, then that's why we're always on our knees thinking that at a press of a button, things can just collapse. So they want to keep you on the edge of your seat so that you don't study your original science. Because you're thinking the earth is going to blow up, a war is going to break out. Trump is going to sign some bill that destroys it. Everybody just is at the edge of their seat like they're watching a thriller movie, as if the moment somebody does something, that everything's going to change. So in the midst of being focused with all these things, there's no practicing going on. Right? Everybody say, Trump's father was the true gangster. You can connect with this motherfucker. I asked him how the fuck you did this shit, especially in your times. Motherfuckers are not even thinking that far. Right? As much energy as he's given, speak to his father. His father's in the earth. How you do this, motherfucker? Right? They ain't not even thinking that far because it's hate. Remember, the energy of the solar plexus is that warrior spirit. So when people try to go to the heart area, it's like Donald Trump just creates hate within people for whatever fucking reason. But it creates hate so they can never transcend. So all the Trump haters will never transcend. Or whoever haters. You hate anybody. You give anybody that type of negative energy that is unnecessary, especially with people that has no bearing on your life. Trump isn't necessarily individually doing anything. It's nobody. It's just more so through the lack of understanding of not only politics and not only how the system works. People just blame whoever's in front. It's just a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. People don't understand the difference between the presidential powers, the powers of Congress, the jurisdiction system, legislative system. It's branches of government. Trump don't control everything. So when you understand government, you're like, oh, it's a lot of people doing a lot of shit. We don't need to just focus on this one man or this one Republican Party, Democratic. It's all intricately tied together. And this is just what they do. So you can either focus on all these things, which is very entertaining. Motherfucking Khabib and Conor McGregor, fights breaking out, the NBA, Chris Paul and Rondo, Motherfuckers just throwing punches. Why? Because it's entertaining. I agree. I was watching that shit like everybody else was, multiple times. I like seeing fists. I like seeing it all. It's very entertaining. But we know there's a time and place for everything. So you watch that about 10, 20 times. You watch some punches being thrown. You get yours off. And you get back to work. The problem is motherfuckers don't know how to turn that switch off. And that's what creates the hate. Motherfuckers want this aggressive energy at all times, 24/7. So it's like you're unsatisfied if you don't know where to get it. So, I'm just really throwing out various things and various topics and various things to study and things to spark your interest. Because there are various dimensions that are yet to be tapped into. Not necessarily because we have to go deeper into the stars, but deeper into the earth. And this is the whole concept of why I began speaking about Satan so heavy. And about the dark side, it's about the earth. The earth. The earth teaches you how to survive, how to thrive, how to multiply, how to subtract, how to divide, how to go beyond your wildest imaginations. This is all knowledge of the earth, not from a human being, right? People are studying people. People are trying to mimic themselves around, let's just say, famous people or successful people, the Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts, the LeBron James, so on and so forth. People are trying to be the next that and use them as blueprints. But what did these people do? All they did is study the earth. The one thing that just nobody wants to do, the person who actually takes that challenge upon them, is the one who becomes successful and studied and sought after. Because when you're trying to mimic them, but you didn't do what they did, because they studied the earth. So if you don't engage in the study of the earth, but you engage in the study of the person, there's a disconnect there. Because you may not necessarily be into stocks, you may not necessarily be into electronics, you may not be into computers. You may be into something completely different, but the resources of the earth will supply you with whatever it is your interests are. Wherever your interests are can be supplied from the earth. The earth will supply you, and whatever sparks your interest is found in the earth. Right? So therefore, this is why there's such a disconnect from where are we from, what culture are we from, what tribe are we from. This is why we're all mixed up, regardless of race and creed. Like we're all just trying to figure out why, because we are all products of alchemy. We are all products of alchemy. That's why so much confusion, because we truly are all different, but all unique and all the same simultaneously. We're simultaneously different and the same. And it's easier to wrap your mind around how all this works when you have knowledge of the earth, when you are communicating with these spirits, performing these dark or forbidden arts, because things will make sense. Why? Because you are allowing the earth to teach you. When you become a practitioner of the forbidden arts, you allow the earth to teach you its secrets. The earth teaches you its secrets if you submit to the wisdom of the earth. That's what Islam is. Islam is mathematics. The mathematics comes from the earth, from nature, from the natural phenomenon. We study these things, not people. We're so caught up in how much they got, what kind of car they're driving, which is all resources of the earth. How much money? A resource from the earth. What kind of car? A resource from the earth. So the things that we truly admire comes from the fucking earth. And that person just figured out how to utilize those natural resources that may have been within them. Let's just say you do music. You figured out how to take your music from a base level that nobody cares about, nobody understands, and make it desirable in every household. Turn that lead into gold. Now it's sought after like gold pieces. That's the alchemical process of music, and that goes for anything that you dedicate yourself to. It starts when nobody knows, nobody cares, and if you take it through the alchemical process, mastery of it, it will be sought after. People will be paying whatever you ask for. When you are able to show people what it's worth. For example, you're trying to sell a crystal to somebody. Let's just say you're trying to sell a crystal that a person can place besides their laptops to keep all the radiation, to keep it away. The radiation is absorbed by the crystal. So you have to convince them not only what this crystal does, its name, its properties, its healing ability, as well as its spiritual purpose. Remember, there's always 7 layers to everything. Most people are not even raising the true layers of the crystals and the elements of the earth. They may know its healing property or the spiritual property, but they may not necessarily know how to utilize it physically or the metaphysical properties, right? So you have to convince a person why they need this. And what allows you to convince this person? What allows you to convince this person is you have a knowledge of the earth. All you gotta do is speak facts. You don't gotta make up anything, you just gotta speak facts. Even if, let's just say you communicate with the crystal. You communicate with the crystal, and the crystal reveals secrets to you because you know how to interpret subtle intelligence. Remember, it's an intelligence within the crystal. I'm pointing over here because I'm actually looking at a crystal. Hold on, let me see. Just use an example. Let me see if I can actually show y'all. Hold on, here we go. Oh. Got this little joint right here. So anyway, see this motherfuckers keep that shit right on the desk. Anyway, all you need to do is have facts of what it actually does and can show and prove it, and there's no problem making a sale. Like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place this crystal in front of this laptop, and I want you to stay on the laptop for about 5 minutes. Then I'm gonna take the crystal away, and if you feel a difference, a significant enough difference, then you will know why this is necessary. You ain't gotta make up nothing. You ain't gotta convince, like, yo, stay on the laptop 5 minutes, fill it out. I'm gonna take the crystal away, and if you feel a significant enough difference, do you know that this is necessary for you? Especially if you are a person that's on a computer for a large amount of time throughout the day. All you gotta do is speak facts, because when you have knowledge of the earth, you know how to show and prove, because you know the properties. Like, all right, I already know what it does, so I just got to set up a scenario that shows and proves that. I know what it does, so let me set up a scenario that proves what it already does, not me giving it properties that don't actually exist. I already know what it does. I just got to set something up to show and prove that. So use your scientific, mathematical mind, engineering mind, and through the use of technology on how to create a scenario to show and prove what this crystal or what this natural resource already does. But if you don't have knowledge of the earth, then there's no way to sell that, even if it's useful. But if you don't know what the uses are, you're going to have a hard time convincing someone, like, why am I spending my money on something that you can't even explain to me? Or you got the information from a book. Even if you get the information from a book, you still use your original mind to create a scenario to show and prove that book knowledge that you have. So even if you get the knowledge from a book, you still have to be able to set up something physically, set up a board, and show and prove how these things work. And that's the science of the mind, to be able to set these things up, to take that book knowledge that you have and to be able to create some type of scenario to show and prove the book knowledge. Not just to keep it there and just to repeat what was in the book, but to show and prove. All right, I read what it does, so let me set up the energy grid so I can show and prove what it does. So it's nothing to sell something, and people can see it for themselves, and they can feel it for themselves. You will have no problem making any type of money when you have knowledge of the earth, and you can convince and show and prove. You really ain't got to do nothing. All right, I got the board set up. I ain't got to say nothing. You're going to feel it for yourself, and you're going to see it for yourself. So you really don't have to rely too much on your talking. You're just speaking facts and showing and proving those facts, and you receive money in return because you have mastered this. You know exactly what you're doing. You understand this whole process. This is what it means to be an inventor, to study the earth and to create scenarios that shows improve these resources and be innovative. How can we do something we already do more effectively? How can we make the internet faster, make it more efficient, make people's lives easier? What problems are we solving? That's where wealth lies. When you are a problem solver, you attract wealth because you are solving the problems of the people. People have problems, and when you are a problem solver, who doesn't want a problem solved? Can you name one person who has a problem and don't want the problem solved? So whoever is that problem solver, they're going to go to them and get the problem solved. They don't care about how much money it is. They just want their problem solved. So if you can solve the problem, then there's no problem generating the income. You have to be a problem solver. How do you become a problem solver? Utilizing the information of the earth. If you understand the earth, then you understand everything that comes from the earth. That gives you an ability to better understand everything that comes from the earth so that you can have an advanced perspective of how things work. Like having the mind of a chemist, the mind of an alchemist, the mind of a physicist, a medical doctor, a psychiatrist. Even if you never went to school for these things, it's just to think so in depth about these resources that it's no problem to show, improve their abilities. So you can be the same person, let's just say, and we get this last example. It's two people with tables set up. Let's just say you on Hollywood Boulevard, you set up a table and you're selling rose quartz, for example. You're selling rose quartz. Somebody sets up a table right next to you and has that same exact rose quartz. So you have rose quartz, they have it. It's the same crystal, same crystal. However, that other person pretty much just bought, let's just say, wholesale. They just bought a bunch of rose quartz crystals wholesale from, a supplier for, a certain price, and they're just selling them to make their money back. Just strictly business, operating on that Mars level, no problem. You, on the other hand, you have thoroughly studied exactly what you are selling. So you are able to set up a scenario to show and prove how this rose quartz work. So you're not just placing these crystals on a table. You're picking it up. Like, let me show you how this works because I know exactly what it does. So you're demonstrating the abilities of the rose quartz. So who do you think gonna make the most money? Who's gonna be sold out by the end of the day? The person that's actually reaching out and showing people how this works, or the person who just puts crystals on the table and expect people to already know what to do? They may have brief information. Oh yeah, this is the rose quartz. It's good for the heart chakra, cleansing, love energy, but they don't go beyond that. Okay, no, show and prove that. Don't tell me about it. I can read that in any book. Show and prove that. Okay, how can you show and prove that? So the person who was able to show and prove exactly what they just said, and the person is actually able to see it and bear witness to it, which is, again, it only takes knowledge of the earth to do this, then you will be, who's going to get that person's money? Simple. By being proactive. Like, let me show you guys why you need this in your life. And because you are confident in your own abilities, and you have set up a board so you can show and prove that, you have created and invented some type of device to show and prove the effectiveness of this crystal. And let's just say you ain't even selling the crystals. Let's take it a step further. You're selling the orgone with rose quartz within it. But let's take it a step further. So you ain't selling rose quartz, you're selling orgone with rose quartz because you understand the earth. So let me actually activate my alchemy. I'm not even going to stop at the rose quartz. I'm about to create orgons in various shapes and geometrical patterns. organs with the rose quartz inside. So when people look at your shit, they're going to see pyramids, they're going to see spears, they're going to see Merkabahs, they're going to see stars, they're going to see various creative shapes. Now your creativity is showing. So you didn't just buy it from somebody, you actually bought it, crushed up the rose quartz, and put it into something else and made it something completely new that is completely original to your mind. So when people look at this, they have never seen this before, because you are an inventor. So they're going to be seeing things that they have never seen nowhere else on this planet, because it does not exist anywhere else. And by you being able to explain and show and prove, easy, you make money every day, because you have knowledge of the earth. And whatever field that you're in, you thoroughly know it from the inside out. So the people is just a matter of demonstrating. You ain't got to know how people work to make sales. You just have to know how your device works, how your product works. You don't have to understand people. Like, yo, let me show you how this works, and then you make a decision whether you want it or not, because you have felt its effects. So if that's something that you want to feel on a daily basis, then you know what to do. Just buy it. As opposed to all I'm doing is running my mouth and hoping that you buy it. But I haven't showed or proved anything. I don't have anything original to give. It's just, I'm just like another person selling a product. So I'm just sparking the mind to think in deeper dimensions, because this can be applied to whatever way of life, whatever path that you navigate. This same science can be applied. Just apply it to whatever path that you choose to walk upon. Because it all comes from earth. I don't give a fuck what field you're in. You're dealing with some elements of the earth. And the more you understand those elements, the more you understand how these things work, and the better you can show and prove the science and be someone who is able to bring original information and thoughts and devices to this world, to be an original inventor, not only an artist, but an inventor as well, to create something new, as well as, let's just say, create the sound frequencies of music, right? So that's what I'm about. That's what I'm about. So before we get out of here, I'm gonna give everybody a shout out, of course. That's the lesson for the day. God damn it. So all right, let me go up to the top. What's up, Spinosaurus? What's up, Michael? What's up, Terrarium's Garden? What's up, Two Gun Shogun? Let's see. What's up, Dizzy? What's up, Anthony? What's up, Law Stewart? What's up, Ted Middens? What's good? What's good? What's the energy of Houston? Well, I can't really tell you about the energy of Houston because I'm not there. So someone in Houston will have to tell you, or you will have to learn for yourself. But if we study the music of Houston, the chopped and screwed music, and you study the imagery and the symbolism of that culture, then you will be able to identify that deity. So if you truly want to understand the energy of a city, study its music, study the symbolism from the artists that create the music. Remember, the artists are the vehicles of the spirit, first and foremost. So if you truly want to know the spirits, study the artists, study the music that is coming from the city. That is the frequency of the city, speaking through the artist, speaking through the musical instruments. So study the music and study the symbolism behind the music, and study the various sub-genres of music. Rock, hip-hop, country music, whatever music is in that particular city. Study, 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 and the secrets will be revealed to you. All right. What's up, Young Samson? What's up, 305 Capricorn? What's up, Lower X? What's up, Raw Light? What's up, B Hollow? What's up, Afro Pick? I appreciate that. Yeah, I like the shades too. It definitely bring out a unique energy. That's why that's again the symbols creates a whole nother vibration. Symbols. It's all about symbols. What's up, teenager? Okay, I think I got everybody. So, you already know who it is. And if you don't know, you know now. So continue to research, continue to study, and be well. Definitely check out the website, asharenu.com, and everything is there. I ain't got to shout out nothing else. asharenu.com, everything is there. So, y'all take it easy. 1.